As with every episode of the Love Tribe podcast, I've been guided to share this. I was told very clearly that it's time to heal this wound that I've been carrying. Not by reliving it, but by witnessing it, by releasing it from the silence it's lived in for so long. And I've also been told that somewhere out there, someone else needs to hear this too. Someone who's carried their pain quietly and wonders if they're strong enough. This is for them too. This episode contains themes of pregnancy loss and difficult choices around motherhood. Please listen with care and honour your own boundaries. If these themes feel tender for you, you may choose to skip this episode or return when you feel ready. I'm not telling this story to defend myself. I'm not asking for permission. I'm not seeking understanding, and I'm not waiting for approval. I'm telling this story because it's mine, because it shaped me, because I have carried it in silence long enough. And now I'm choosing to speak, not from shame, but from sovereignty. And I'm telling it for every woman who has carried a truth alone, for every woman who's made a choice that no one else has had to live with, for every woman who was judged before she was ever understood. This is for us. Welcome back to the Love Tribe podcast. I'm Madonna, and it's been a little while. If you've been following along, you might have noticed a pause between episodes. It wasn't planned, but it was necessary. The stories I've shared so far have been tender, layered, and emotionally real, and this one has taken time. Time to build the strength. Time to gather the courage, time to decide that I'm finally ready to tell it. There are stories that we carry for years before we speak them out loud. Not because we're hiding, but because they live so deep inside of us, they become part of the silence that we survive in. Back in episode 2, I briefly mentioned a relationship that shut me down quietly. I didn't say much, just a sentence or two like it didn't matter. But the truth is, it mattered a lot. It wasn't time to tell it then, but it's time now. This is the story of that moment, of a love that wasn't really love, a decision I never wanted to make, and a season of my life that stripped me bare. It's the beginning of my celibacy, the collapse that came before the clarity, and maybe the moment I began to awaken, even if I didn't know it yet. This one's for the women who've had to make impossible choices, who've buried their pain quietly, and who are still learning how to honour what they've survived. I'm ready to tell it now, and if you're with me, we'll walk through it together. He was younger than me, not someone I expected to feel anything for, but he was a beautiful human, kind-hearted, reliable, loyal, the sort of person everyone liked and everyone could count on. At the time, I was running a busy cafe, working upwards of 90 hours a week. I was fueled by purpose, by passion, and by community. My life was full, loud, and demanding, but he arrived quietly, casual, attentive, and fun. And somehow in the middle of all that movement, I found a little pocket of connection. It wasn't love, but there was something undeniable between us. Something warm and something easy. A spark I didn't expect, and one that I didn't resist. After just one night together, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned, it wasn't a relationship, but it was real, and I knew from the moment I reached out he would understand why. He guessed right away, and to his credit, he showed up. He came with me to the appointment, sat beside me, held my hand in the waiting room, drove me home, stayed with me all that night while I recovered. It was intimate in a way that had nothing to do with romance, but everything to do with presence. And somehow that moment became the beginning of something between us. You're listening to the Love Tribe podcast, a space for truth, tenderness, and the kind of love that changes everything. I was guided on this journey, not for praise or performance, but to open the path to unconditional love. The kind of love that holds you, that walks beside you, that proves again and again that love wins. That by trusting something greater, love meets us here, not to complete us, but to walk with us. And when it arrives, it won't just feel like love, it will feel like a promise kept. We spent the next few months close. It wasn't serious, but it was tender. There were moments I thought maybe something deeper was growing, but there was always a quiet knowing that this wasn't meant to last. Eventually we drifted apart. No big ending, just distance. There's something I want to honour here, something I never spoke out loud at the time. I really wanted that baby. My son was a teenager. I had given everything to raising him on my own, and I knew I didn't have it in me to do it again. Not without support, not in the life that I was living at the time. But if things had been different, if the connection had held more than care, I would have shared the experience. I would have chosen that child. I never shared the depth of my grief with the person involved, not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't want to place that weight onto someone who hadn't asked to carry it. So I carried it myself, a private goodbye, a quiet ache, a choice made with clarity and still carried with sorrow. There's something I need to name here, something I've never spoken or given words to. I carry grief for this, it's heavy, even now. I carry guilt, not for making the choice that I made, but for wanting it to be different, for wishing life had looked another way. And I carry longing, not for the life I didn't have, but for the love that I wanted to feel while I made that choice. This is the part that no one talks about, the quiet ache that lives in the body, the way you can stand by your decision and still mourn what it cost you. I've learned that grief and choice can coexist, that strength doesn't mean silence, and that the deepest healing doesn't come from erasing the ache, but from letting it be witnessed. For years, I carried this in secret. I didn't let anyone see how heavy it felt. I told myself that I should be fine, that I'd moved on. But grief doesn't disappear when it's unspoken. It waits, patiently, until you're ready to speak the truth. When I look back now, I can see it so clearly. That moment was the doorway. Not just to celibacy, but into awakening. At the time, I thought I was shutting out love, but really I was making space to meet myself, to meet God, in a way that I'd never done before. I didn't see it then. All I knew was the silence, the quiet I wrapped around my pain, the quiet the world wrapped around me. But even in that silence, God was there. When I felt unseen by everyone else, God stayed. When I thought my pain was too messy, too complicated, too unworthy to be witnessed, God saw it all and He loved me anyway. And slowly that love began to change me. Not in one moment, not in some dramatic instant of healing, but in the quiet daily choices to believe that I was worth loving again. Worth loving even when I wasn't chosen. Worth loving even when I didn't have it all together. Worth loving even when I wasn't sure I believed it yet. I didn't know it then, but that's when slow love began for me. Not as a concept, not as a podcast, not as a movement, but as a way of living. Choosing love intentionally, choosing love patiently, choosing love that grows deep roots rather than quick fixes. And now, years later, I can stand here in this space with you and tell the story. Not to reopen the wound, but to honour what it gave me. Because the wound isn't the ending. The wound is where the light got in. If you're listening to this and carrying a grief that no one knows about, a choice that you made quietly, a pain that you thought you had to hold alone, I want you to know this. Your story matters. Your love is worthy, and you are held by God, by love, by something greater than this moment. And if you never speak it out loud, that's okay too. I'm sharing this for those who can't. For the ones like me, who had to make the choice, but will never speak the words aloud to anyone. For the ones who carried it quietly and wonder if they'll ever feel whole again. You are not forgotten. You're not too late to heal, to be loved, and to begin again. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Love Tribe podcast. If something in this episode stirred something in you and you feel called to share your own story, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Madonna, and you can reach me directly at hello@wearethelovetribe.com or connect with our beautiful community on Instagram at wearethelovetribe. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, trust your journey, and don't forget that I love you.